Most real estate agents don't have a lead generation problem, they have a lead conversion problem. Generating leads is very easy, but converting them is where the magic happens and the biggest differentiator between top producers and agents with no deals. So I've decided to do something very special, which is a complete lead conversion masterclass where I've brought on one of the industry's leading lead conversion experts to reveal everything. And truthfully, most coaches charge you thousands of dollars to learn what we're going to reveal for free today in this conversation. Let me explain what you're going to get out of this interview. First is one subtle tweak you can make today that has resulted in many agents increasing their lead conversion by 1,600%. Second is going to be the exact scripts that you need in order to follow up with your clients to convert them, leading to part number 3, what you can do immediately to ramp up your lead conversion to the point where you're closing a deal every single week. And the last part is the one newsletter that works like magic that has converted the most amount of leads that anybody can do starting this week, and it is incredibly easy. I've never seen anything like this. And again, most coaches gatekeep it unless you're paying them $1,000 a month. So I brought on Joshua Smith, who's closed over 7,000 transactions. He's coached over 5,000 agents, and he is, in my opinion, the industry's leading lead conversion expert. And he reveals everything. Nothing is held back in this conversation. Now, 2 quick things before getting started. Number 1, I will link Josh's content below. He's got an incredible YouTube channel where he dives deeper into some of these strategies. And number 2, if you're struggling with your business or you just want Josh to help you actually build out your lead conversion strategy specific to you and help you implement it and ramp up to a deal every single week, then click the link in the description. You can have a private Zoom call with him and he will help you for free take your business to a radically different level. But without further ado, let's dive into lead conversion, because this is a masterclass that is going to help you drastically change how you start closing deals going forward. All right, Josh, super excited to have you back on here, man. And we're going to be diving into what I think is one of the biggest problems that agents actually have. You and I both know, and combined, we've trained over 10,000 agents, and the majority of people think that they have a lead problem. It's always, I'm not closing enough deals, I need more leads. It's always more. But I think that that's not actually the truth, or the root cause of the problem is that most people don't have a lead problem. They have a lead conversion problem. Generating leads extraordinarily easy. But let's start to dive into how people can actually convert those leads, and some of the tactical strategies around, even KPIs, and the fact that to double your business, you don't often have to double your lead flow, just double your conversion.
Yeah, it's so funny, man. So I'm having a conversation with a coaching client, agent partner, this a couple months ago, and life situation change, had a baby, and he's like, dude, I need to double my business, but I can't double my hours. And I said, okay, great. Quickest way to double your business, dude, isn't to double your hours, or it isn't to, generate twice as many leads or spend twice as much money. It's get twice as good at what you're already doing. So now luckily he was tracking his data. So we were able to do a deep dive, kind of, into his funnel, and okay, his appointment set to appointment conduction, was significantly lower than it needs to be. And then his appointment conduction to client take-in rate was significantly lower than it needed to be. So I walked him through and we did the math really quickly. I'm like, dude, if you get these to where it needs to be, you just 2.7x your business without working more hours, without generating more leads, without having more conversations, by just honing that in. So yeah, it is extremely powerful. And to your point, man, I've been doing this for 20 years and really coaching for 20 years. Yeah, I've had a coaching company for 10, but when you're running a team like I have, like, you got to become a really good coach really fast. You got to learn the business for yourself, but then it's like, okay, in order for me to bring in brand new agents fresh out of school and get them making 20 grand a month after 6 months, it's like, I had to get really good at coaching and mentoring and walking them through, what to do with these processes. And as you mentioned, dude, I've never met anybody that actually has a lead gen problem. It's their inability to convert leads into appointments. That's always the underlying problem. When we start peeling back the onion layers, I know that's not what people want to hear, but it's just the truth. So the first step with this, and because I can just jam on this for hours, right? So I don't want to just hog the mic here, but the first thing to understand is, look, we are in a 2-step sales process in real estate. So okay, if you're selling something e-commerce, a supplement or whatever, that's a one-step sales pro. Like they click, they buy, boom, it's done. Well, with real estate, okay, all of our lead gen and lead follow-up exists to set the appointment. Then obviously on the appointment, we need to then be able to articulate our value and get them to choose us. One thing I love about real estate is we're actually not selling anything. People already sold in the fact they want to buy and sell real estate. Dude, it's the American dream, right? So what we got to do is articulate that we are the best guide to help them from the current living situation that they want to get to. So, all of our lead gen, lead follow-up exists to set that appointment. Then on that appointment, of course, we've got to be able to articulate our value to get them to choose us. So the mistake that so many make is they put these into like, oh, I'm going to just focus on lead gen. And I always say like, look, from the inception of that lead, when you're coming up with your strategy, from inception of lead all the way until they become a client, really a closing. But what I find is most realtors, once they get a client, are really good. They care, they do an amazing job. From, okay, how do I get the lead all the way through converting them to a client, really is where the bottlenecks lie. So my first recommendation is when you're coming up with your strategy, don't just think about how am I going to generate these leads, right? Like that's one element of it. But from inception of lead all the way through, boom, they become a customer, making sure that you have your strategy, you have your process honed in, dialed in, to be able to maximize conversions, because it does make a world of difference. I don't know if you have if I want to pause there, if you have follow-up questions to that, or if you want me just to keep kind of ripping with.
Yeah, I think that's good. I think let's keep going, and then we could start, unpacking some of the layers after we kind of set the foundation.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So then from there, you guys, okay, let's just kind of start looking at this, right? So we'll start first off with lead gen, lead follow-up, right? Because step number one is to set the appointment. Then from there, once we set the appointment, we need to get them to show for the appointment. Then once they show for the appointment, then we got to convert them. And again, I know this sounds like common sense, but people will be like, well, Josh, I understand that the whole point of setting an appointment is to get them to show for the appointment. I get that. And then I'm like, okay, well, are you tracking? Are you measuring it? Or do you have a right proven process to ensure that you're getting a 75% plus appointment set to show rate? Industry average is 50%. And then when they're like, no, then I'm like, okay, I know you say that you get this, but you don't get this. Because if you got this, like that alone can make $50,000, $60,000 of a difference, depending. And that's like if you're a decent 150, 200 grand a year producer, like if you're a mega team, it could be costing you seven figures by not honing in, with your agents, on just one little KPI inside the business, okay. So let's talk about, lead gen through setting the appointment. And I'll go through just some kind of underlying frameworks, because I know that everybody's got different lead gen strategies that they're doing, but I have some kind of universal frameworks that I follow that kind of apply to all lead sources. The difference is, okay, maybe the scripting, like how I might speak to a Zillow lead is different than an open house lead, different than a YouTube lead, different than, Google pay-per-click lead, just the scripting might be a little bit different, but I follow kind of the same universal, overall process. So my first recommendation is, okay, once you identify, hey, here's how I want to grow my business, here's the lead gen strategy I want to do. Because here's the thing, you guys, is it all works. Everything works, nothing doesn't. So if you are not getting results with whatever you're doing, whether it be YouTube, whether it be Instagram, whether it be Facebook, whether it be open houses, whether it be cold calling, I don't care, like insert the source. If you're not getting results with it, it's not the thing, it's your approach to the thing. And I don't care how hard you're sprinting. If you're sprinting east to chase the sunset, you're never going to see it. Yeah, right. So you got to be, you got to work hard and you got to work smart. So the first thing that I do is I make sure that, okay, here's how I'm going to generate those leads. But then I go out there and I do my due diligence and I make sure to come up with the best proven process to convert that lead into an appointment, right? So because until that takes place, like I'm not going to turn on the faucet with this. So an example, actually, one of our Wolfpack members, talking with him like a year ago, and he's doing all these Google pay-per-click leads, spent a ton of money, doing Google pay-per-click leads. And he reaches out, he's like, Josh, man, I'm not getting a good ROI. And I'm like, okay, well, dude, like you're getting a bunch of leads. Walk me through what your follow-up process is. So he walks me through. I'm like, okay, dude, like your follow-up process, it's broken, right? Like it needs work. And I was like, what you're doing right now is you got this bucket and you're pouring all this water into this bucket, but you got all these holes in this bucket. So I don't care how much, like you can keep scaling up your Google ad spend, but you're not going to convert any better. You're going to keep losing money hand over fist until we plug these holes. So I told him, I said, my recommendation, dude, is to turn off your ad spend. Let's hone this in, because with the amount of leads he had in the CRM, I'm like, dude, there's at least 300 grand of gold in commissions just sitting in your CRM with leads that you already have. So turn that off. Let's button this up. And then once you got this buttoned up and you're like getting some conversions, if you want to turn that back on, cool, whenever you're ready for that. So I just talked to him a week ago and he kind of gave me an update, right? And he's like, dude, he goes, did what you said. He goes, I ended up getting a 1,600% ROI on that lead spend by buttoning that up. So hopefully you guys can kind of grasp the importance of this. Okay, so then from there, I'm going to make sure that I've got that cadence for my overall follow-up, right? So my kind of rule of thumb is I'm going to have everybody on some element of an email, text, drip follow-up. And for me, it averages out to be, usually around 1,000 days. So when I have that lead, because I want to leverage tools, technology, systems, so I'm going to put them into my CRM. If you want to get good at lead follow-up, you better have a CRM in place. I don't care what the CRM is, but you better have a damn CRM in place. I want you to think about your CRM as your technology assistant. So if you hire an assistant, that assistant's going to delegate out tasks. You can delegate out to it. But then the things that they can't delegate, okay, that assistant is going to remind you to do those things so you don't forget. Right? So, okay, what can I automate in my CRM? All my text, my emails, property alerts, the things I can't delegate, my calls. Okay, it's going to remind me to do those things so I don't forget. And not just thinking of lead gen, right? Begin all these detours. Like I'm talking with a dude yesterday that is like, man, Josh, he goes, he's getting like 25, appointments a month, right? Or people reaching out for appointments. But he goes, here's my problem. He goes, I jump on, so this is obviously a top producer, right? So he goes, I go jump on this listing appointment. Maybe I don't get it signed or whatever, because you're not going to convert them all right up front. He goes, then I get chased to the next listing appointment, then the next listing appointment, the next listing appointment, and I forget to follow up. I'm like, all right, dude, like we need to get your systems in place. It allows you to be effective and efficient. It's like, okay, let's just say I happen to go on, it's rare, but I happen to go on a buyer consult or listing presentation where they don't sign with me. Can I go to my CRM, click a button, 26-day, 12-touch follow-up. It's on. I'll automatically email them 6 times, automatically task me to call them 6 times over the next 26 days so I don't forget. Then if I'm unable to convert them in that 26 days, it puts them back into lead follow-up, right? So I'm going to have them on, and for me, pretty much averages out. Doesn't matter if it's an expired, FSBO, Facebook lead, Google pay-per-click lead, YouTube lead, doesn't matter. They pretty much are going on 1,000-day long email, text, drip follow-up. So it's just happening. So I just click a button and then bam, that's taking place and happening. Then from there, I'm going to put everybody on a property alert, buyers and sellers, right? So obviously a buyer, you guys know with, whether it's through MLS or through your CRM, I want to have them on instant property alert so I can beat them to Zillow. Now for sellers, I do a reverse, kind of a reverse property alert, like meaning that, okay, they're in this neighborhood. Like I hate these whole automated CMAs. And the reason why I hate them is they're so damn inaccurate. They're all over the place. When they first came out, man, I was leveraging the hell out of them. Until I had my first situation where you go on a listing appointment and you're like, okay, well, hey, here's my recommended or here's my recommended starting off list price. Here's what market value is for your home. Here's my recommended list price. Like, well, Josh, last week you sent us an email saying our house was worth with this. Like, what happened to this 50 grand in value? So now I got to either go explain to them, how is the system there? So either I look incompetent or it looks like a bait and switch, right? So then what I do is I go, okay, here's your neighborhood. Right. And then I have a weekly alert sent out with every home that's sold in the last 7 days that's similar to their property. So I'm not committing to evaluation. It's just allowing them to keep a pulse of what's going on in the marketplace. Right. So I've got, my 1,000-day email text strips. I got property alerts going on for every lead. Then I have my mass emails. Now my mass emails, because again, I just like to keep things universal, keep it simple. So my mass emails go out to every single person in my CRM. Doesn't matter if they're a lead, vendor, past client, sphere of influence, whatever. So I do a weekly email. And the weekly email, look, if you have a weekly newsletter or, like a Monday motivation, which I find to hit really good because people have a case of the Mondays, or what most of my agents do is a Friday, what's happening in the area. So that just looks like, hey, happy Friday. Hope you had a great week. Not sure if you and the family have big plans for the weekend, but just in case you don't, here's a list of all the events taking place here in the area over the weekend. So we just go, the local paper, the online paper, copy like all the concerts, comedy events, sporting events, all the major things going on, right? It takes a few seconds to do, but then I can mass email. Like I've got over 90,000 leads in my database, with the energy and effort of one email, bam, I can mass email out to everybody. Then we do a weekly email, we do holiday emails. So the weekly email and the holiday emails have nothing to do with real estate, but it comes from a real estate email. And just so you guys know too, like with all these, because people are like, oh, email's dead. And look, it's becoming less and less effective. I get it. But it still works. It's still effective, right? But here's the thing is, even if they're not opening your emails, they should be effective. So like my emails, I
Mhm.
go into the sender name. So, I make sure that my first name is Joshua Smith. My last name is Realtor. So when it shows the sender name, it's Joshua Smith Realtor. So even if they're checking that check mark box and clicking that trash can, I'm just planting that seed, Joshua Smith Realtor, Joshua Smith Realtor, Joshua Smith Realtor in their head. Right. So then from the mass emails, so we do 5.5 average per month. So we got the weekly email, not real estate related. So it's a value regardless whether they're ready to buy today or 2 years out. Then from there, we do holiday emails. So here in the US, there's like 7 core holidays that we do, right? And then I do a monthly market update report. So in the monthly market update report, I prefer video for that. And in that, it's not like strong in their face call to actions. It's just, hey, here's what's going on in June 2025 here in the Phoenix, Arizona, Phoenix metro housing market. Here's what's going on overall. If you own a home, this is what this means. If you're looking to potentially buy a home, this is what this means for you. So it's because like if you look at real estate, like every party that you go to, every event that like people are always talking about real estate. It's not like we're selling life insurance where like you got to talk to people about death and dying and like dude, it's just something people whether they're looking to buy or sell right now, they like to keep a pulse of what's going on with the housing market. So they get an average then of 5.5 monthly broadcast emails. Then from there, now we're pounding the calls, we're pounding the phones. Now, just so you know, all the other things that I do, I look at and I utilize as a safety net. So, like if I'm a tightrope walker at the circus, if I slip and fall off that rope, dude, I don't want to splatter on that concrete, right? Like I want that safety net to catch me. So, look, we all get busy. I can't say I'm perfect. I've had periods of times where I'm slammed and my phone calls start to kind of, I'm not on point with my calls in the way that I should be. So if that ever happens, hopefully the other thing they're staying in the tough, in touch. They're not enough. You need the phone calls, but in case that happens where you just get like you're an individual agent, you got 8 deals that just pop all in 1 month and your fault, slows down for that month. And then you get back on the train the next month, like hopefully you don't splatter on that concrete. So I look at those as the safety net. Then from there, I want everybody to understand that appointments get set on the phones. And I'll walk you through some frameworks here that I found to be really, really powerful with the phone calls. But the higher the ticket item, the more important face to face and phone sales are. Right. So again, if you're selling an $80 supplement online or t-shirts, yeah, dude, like you don't need phone calls. But we are helping people buy and sell the biggest financial transaction of their lifetime. Dude, the phones are imperative. And I know most people don't want to do the phones or afraid of the phones. Look, just get over that crap. Because here's the thing, and I get it. Like I suffered with call reluctance, fear of rejection as much as anybody I know. I used to spend more time looking at the damn phone than I did getting on it. But then I just had to get to that point and realize, I actually heard a study on Newsweek that one of my mentors sent me that showed that the average funeral here in the US, at least, the average funeral has 100 people show up. Now, if the weather's bad, like if it's pouring rain outside, only 50% of those show up. So let's just assume, okay, weather's good. You got 100 people that show up. Well, at the average funeral with 100 people, only 6 actually shed a tear. Now, I have no idea how they did the research, how they did the studies, but anyway, it just hit home with me. I'm like, okay, dude, only 100 people show up to my funeral, only 6 shed a tear. Why am I living my life out of fear for some stranger that if I got hit on the freeway tonight by a semi would never be bothered to show up to my funeral? They don't give a shit about me or my family. It's not because they're bad human beings. They just got their own crap going on in their own life. So number one, they're never going to show up at my funeral. They're not going to shed a tear at my funeral. Like I need to be living for myself, but then those 6 people that are going to be devastated. So then I got to the point where I'm just like, it was just a big mindset shift where again, okay, I'm having to say no to my family. I'm having to say no to opportunities to my family, to those that actually matter to me, because I'm too afraid of getting told no from some stranger that could give 2 shits about me and my family. They don't care if I could pay my bills. They don't care about us. And again, it's not because they're bad human beings. Like I love human beings. I'm not saying they just got their own crap going on. So then, I just have this mental frame now of like, look, when I make these calls, I get, because you're exponentially going to get more no's than you ever get yeses. It's just how sales works. But then it's like, okay, worst case, if they tell me no, okay, my life doesn't change. Best case, if they say yes, okay, impacts me and my loved ones. Yeah, right. So you just got to get over that. You have to, right? Then from there, when we're on those phones, okay, so like I said, I got some like kind of universal frameworks here. Now, when I have a new lead, like I don't care, like let's just say it's an expired I'm going after, or if it's a Facebook lead coming in, or I know a lot of you guys watch and listen and follow Mike, heavily. That's why you're here. So you do a lot of social media. I don't care what the lead source is. These apply. Right? So when they come in, they're first tagged in my CRM, and I'll have my CRM set up where they automatically get set up on the 1,000 email text, but then I'm automatically tasked with what I call my no time frame established call tasking drip. So this means I haven't had a conversation with them. I haven't established their goal. I haven't established their timeline yet. So that's going to task me to call them day one, then every other day for 14 days, then every 21 days for a whole year. Now, it sounds like a lot. And look, it is. It's a lot of frequency. Look, it takes more reach outs. Like your average lead that's in your CRM, I'll tell you guys this right now. Your average lead in your CRM, because you're going to get 5 no's from the same lead before you get a yes to set the appointment. So on average, it's going to take 60 reach outs, 60 phone calls, 60 reach outs, 6 conversations to 1 appointment set. So as Mike said early on in this call, like so many people overestimate the amount of leads that they need, but underestimate the amount of follow-up. It's actually the reverse. You probably need far less leads, and you probably need to do far more follow-up. So then from there, okay, look, if you have a great called answer rate in today's world with all the spam and just like, dude, like, I don't know about you guys, but I don't answer a call unless they're booked into my caller ID. Unless, I see that number keep calling me, then I think maybe it's something important or urgent. I need to answer it. So if you got a 10% dial the conversation rate, okay, that means you're gonna have to call that same lead at least 10 times to have one conversation with them, right? So yeah, I'm calling day one, every other day for the first 14 days, then every 21 days for a whole year. Now, if I can't get a hold of them after that frequency, after a year, then I just let the emails, the texts, the property alerts, automation do their thing. And I'll tell you guys this, you will be blown away and shocked at how many people over the years will end up reaching out. Like we had our longest Facebook lead. This was about a year ago that we converted this, but it was the longest Facebook lead we ever had in our system. And they're in our system for over 6 years. Never answered one call, never replied to one email, never replied to one text message. Like you would think this was the deadest, coldest lead that existed out there. 6 years later, they reach out. Hey, thanks for not giving up on us. We're finally ready to go. Right. And you'll get to a point where if you got a big lead flow with this stuff, you're going to get several dozen of those a year. Like it's crazy how many of those we actually get, not 6 years out, but year out, 2 years out, 3 years out. So I got my no time frame established. Now, then from there, I've got 3 different time frame established. So I got under 6 months, 6 to 12 months, 12 plus months out, which I'll get into those here in a minute. So then, okay, now let me go, okay, well, what do we say? Because this is where I find most people get kind of stifled, right? They're like, well, I know I need to call, but what the hell do I say? So scripts can matter. Scripts can be important. But the reason why I don't go off of scripts or I don't rely on them is things go off script really fast. So I go after like objectives, like, hey, here's the overall objective. So the objective of initial call number 1 is to identify their goal, identify their timeline, set the appointment if able or appropriate. But if unable or appropriate, because I know goal and timeline, now I know how to follow up accordingly to maximize conversions for if and when they're ready. So let's just say it's a Facebook lead or a buyer lead. And then I can go over like, if you want me to, Mike, I can go into like an expired or whatever. I don't know how much of your audience goes after expires, but I know a lot do internet leads, right? So, okay, we get these online buyer leads. If I reach out to them, I'm like, hey, so when are you looking at buying? What do they all say? I'm not buying, I'm just browsing, right? They shut down. So we want to do what's called pre-frame mirroring. So mirroring means, okay, I'm going to bring up the pushback, the obstacle, the objection that they have in their head before they even bring it up. But then we want to pre-frame this because if you look at the consumer today, the consumer, and you and I are consumers, we're all consumers. They want the information that they want and need to make their best informed decision for themselves and for their family, but they want to do that in a safe, non-pushy, non-pressure environment. So I'm going to talk slow. I'm going to slow things down because you guys can all tell right now, watch or listen to this, that, look, I'm high energy. I talk fast. If I talk in my natural state to leads, I freak them the hell out and they all shut down. Right? They triggers the croc portion of the brain. They go into fight or flight mode. And that's where they're looking to fight you, like to chew you out, or they're looking to flight, meaning get the hell off the phone. I want to keep them out of fight or flight so we can have an effective conversation. So when I have a buyer lead, like how I establish timeline is, hey, I know you're probably just browsing and not looking to make a move now or anytime at all in the near future. So just hypothetically speaking, if you were to make a possible move in the future, what would you say your best guesstimate to when that time frame might possibly be? Like 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, 2 years. Again, just hypothetically speaking, what would you say your best guess is? I get them to open up. I get pretty much everybody to unpack and open up because it's a soft tone. I'm pre-framing it. I'm using what I call de-anchoring words, like old school sales, like, oh, you anchor the sale, get them nodding their head, you get them saying yes, you anchor the sale. Dude, people are too savvy to that. Right? So this is why I'm using words like, if you were to, make a possible move in the future, so it's not making them feel locked down. Yeah, right. Then from there, we'll want to give them multiple choice. The average person has sold 5,000 plus times a day. We have so much information coming at us into our minds that it's hard for people to even think. So this is why I give them multiple choice. And then they're, oh, well, yeah, probably next, maybe 6 to 12 months or 1 to 2, whatever they tell me. It doesn't matter. Whatever they tell me. Then from there, then I lead into, okay, because again, the objective of call number one is to identify timeline, identify goal. So now we get into goal. Okay, well, I appreciate you sharing that. Now, if you were to, make this possible move in the next 6 to 12 months, what would you say is most important to you with the home that you'd be, potentially buying, and when it comes to the home itself plus location, like what would you say is most important to you? So now we start having a conversation about that. So now I can start setting up detailed property lists. I can start knowing what to send them. I can start, going from that. Now, then from there, now if they're under a year, that's where I go aggressive into setting the appointment. Hey, I know you're about a year out from wanting to make this possible move, but in my professional experience, right now is actually the best time for us to set up a quick Zoom call. Or if you want to meet in person, you can go that route too. I like to do these via Zoom because people feel more comfortable. It's quicker, it's easier, and just as powerful. So, my recommendation is that we set up a quick Zoom call. I want to make sure that you are extremely well educated in the home buying process here in the state of Arizona. You know all the ins and outs. I want to make sure that you know what the financial investment is. This way you have all the information to make your best informed decision, and then make sure that all your ducks in the row. So if you decide to make this move in the next 6 to 12 months, you're in the best possible position to do that and get the best interest rates. And, so I've got time at this time available today or tomorrow, whatever that is, and going for the appointment. They say no, yeah, hey, no worries, I totally get that, totally understand that. If there's anything that you need, I'm here to serve, support, and help any way I possibly can. I'll make sure to stay in touch too, just to see if there's anything that you need. And been great talking with you, and we'll talk soon. Right? Then, okay, the objective of every follow-up call after that is to build connection and rapport, to reconfirm goal and timeline, and then set appointment if able appropriate. Now, before I get into that, whatever they tell me for their timeline is, I'm just telling you guys this, like just do this. Whatever they tell you, cut that in half. If they tell you they're waiting for, probably buy in about a year. If you wait a year, you're going to get, I already bought. Like whatever they tell you, cut that in half. And then that dictates if they're under, so if they tell me 6 to 12 months, that means I'm going to be tagging them with my timeline established less than 6 months, which is going to task me to call them every 30 days. Right. So I want to have this in my CRM. So then I just log in, shows me my daily task queue of who I got to call. I don't forget. This is why those, our systems are so important. So then we can just kind of set it, forget it, just log in, tells you what to do, who you got to call. Just like when I get a past client, I just click a button and task me every 90 days for the next 20 years. So I never forget to follow up with them. Right. So then, okay, all the follow-up calls, build rapport, reconfirm goal, reconfirm timeline. So this is again where CRM is important because you're going to be doing a lot of lead flow. Well, you're going to forget. Yeah, right. So I make sure I'm putting in their kids' names. So instead of me just like, oh, hey, how are you doing? How's the family? I'm like, hey, how are you doing? How's work going? Well, what about Amanda? Is she good? How about Michaela, Lane, and Jackson? They doing good too? Hey, last time we spoke, Jackson was going to that big soccer tournament. How'd that end up for him? Hey, last time we spoke, so I'm doing connection first, rapport, or, business second. Hey, last time we spoke, you got that big job promotion. I mean, how's that going? Maybe I'm talking with them and they're like, because always thinking about excuses and reasons and detours to follow up. Because look, 88% of buyers and sellers go with the first agent that they meet and that they connect with. So the connection, like people underplay the connection piece. And this is why with follow up, like I leverage the hell out of AI, but when it comes to follow up, I don't use any element of AI for follow up, right? Because every instance that I've seen, at least where it's at right now, it takes away from the human connection because I just can't do some of these things. So maybe I'm having a conversation. Hey, how you doing? Not good. What's going on? I just found out I got to go in for surgery. Whatever. So then from there, I'm at, well, what's going on? What's that entail? So of course I'm, being concerned about them. I'm pouring into them. But what I'm also trying to do is, okay, hey, when you going for the surgery? When you going to be home? What's recovery time look like? When is appropriate for me to? Now it's going to be a real estate call. It's just going to be, hey, just want to check in. How'd the surgery go? How are you doing? Anything I could do to serve, support, and help? And just your language matters. I'm always telling people, like, if there's anything I can do to serve, support, and help, not just here to be a realtor, here to be a resource any way I possibly can. So anything you need, real estate related or not, I'm here for you. Right? So tonality, language, all of that stuff matters massively. So I'm going to start with the connection rapport. Then from reconfirming timeline and goal, it's just, hey, okay, so last time we spoke, you mentioned it was about 6 to 12 months out from making a possible move here in Surprise, Arizona. I just want to see if that's still your timeline, or if anything's maybe changed there. Oh no, that still sounds right. Okay, great. And look, I know your time's valuable. I don't want to waste your time. So if you were to make this move in the next 6 to 12 months, here's what you're looking for. Here's the properties that I'm sending you. Is that still about right, or is anything maybe changed there? Nope, that's still right. Okay, great. Hey, I know last time we also spoke, you mentioned that you weren't quite yet ready for us to, jump on that Zoom meeting. But in my experience, I truly believe that it's the next best step. So I just want to throw it out there again, because I highly recommend that we schedule a Zoom call as soon as possible, where we can walk through the home buying process here in the state of Arizona, make sure that you know all the ins and outs, make sure that you know what the financial investments are. I want to make sure that all your questions are answered, so you're making the best informed decision for yourself and for your family. I got time this week. Is that something that you'd like to set up? No, I'm not ready yet. Okay, no worries. Right. So you want to attach the process, detach from the outcome. Right. And we just keep that process going. So I'm going long-winded here. I'm going to shut up. I got other things that I can share too, but I'll just see.
No, dude, it's absolutely incredible. It's a complete masterclass in lead conversion, and I love that you say, the importance of being consistent, even if you're not seeing the tangible results. In the sense of, we recently did a coaching call with one of the agents that has been leveraging that Friday weekly what's happening strategy. It's one of the easiest, best emails, and the greatest part is now you can pretty much figure out what to say in that using ChatGPT, if you don't want to research what's happening in your market, right? It's never been easier. And he was telling us how he recently just got a client that turned into a closed deal, where the client reached out from that email. And it was the first time he reached out, and he was like, hey, thank you so much for sending this. I've been following this every week for the last 18 months, the last year and a half. And it was the first time he reached out. All he's been doing is consuming it and not saying a peep. It's kind of like, we see all the time on social media, people, will post and then they'll get disappointed that they don't have leads reaching out. People are watching, they just might not be interacting. So it's critical. But you know, there's two things. One thing I want to kind of bring up, and one thing I'd love to get your opinion on. Um, I think it's really interesting because a lot of this goes back to taking the dedicated time to actually build a foundation. I find a lot of agents are kind of enamored by the sexier aspect of lead generation, but they don't want to take the time to actually build the foundation to convert them and take a week to go, tackle a CRM and get systems in place. And that's where I think a lot of agents get overwhelmed and frustrated is they continue to bring in leads and leads and leads. They're not converting, but it's kind of like where focus goes, energy flows. They're not even putting time into the conversion and wondering why they've got this leaky bucket. But for you, one thing that I rarely see people talk about, but I know that you know the answer to this, and many people are curious. When do you believe is a good time or a good routine for follow up? So people are going to say, okay, I've got this strip campaign, I've got my CRM set up. Uh, do I follow? Do I start making some calls at 9 in the morning? Do I make them at 5 p.m.? Like, what does a follow up routine look like in terms of actually blocking it off in your calendar and saying, I'm going to dedicate this time every day or every week to following up with the people that are going to, you know, be in the notification section of my CRM?
So, okay. So there's a technical, answer as far as like, okay, when to optimize for highest answer rates and whatnot. But the reality is I don't care Monday through Friday. Saturdays work good too. Sundays can work, but I, try to respect, because I'm in an area with a lot of young families and people go to church and have young, they have family time. And so I really haven't ever leveraged, Sundays as a fall day. Saturdays can work pretty good. But for me, I try to get as much stacked Monday through Friday as I can. That way I can use Saturdays for client time or spend time with the family. So then from there, it's whatever the time is that you're going to consistently do it from like 8 a.m. to 7 p.m., anytime in that window. So like an example, I'm talking with one of our new agent partners yesterday on a one-on-one coaching call. She has an 18-month young daughter at home that's with her full time. Yeah. Right. So then I was like, and dude, she's crushing it with Instagram, open houses on the weekends, get some op city. Like she has plenty of lead flow coming in. but the follow-up is the inconsistency there. So then I'm like, okay, I know, I've got 3 kids. I'm like, hey, I know it's, like when they're that age, like, it could be hard, right? So then I asked her, I said, well, does your daughter have like a consistent nap time? Is she at that age yet where she, because my kid's a little older now, I forgot what that age is like. She goes, yeah, every day from, I think it was noon to 1, she naps. I'm like, okay, I want you from noon to 1, blocking that off as your daily lead follow-up time while you're hitting the phones. So then it's blocked off. It's consistent because I'm like, okay, I'm guessing during your daughter's nap time, you're not taking out buyers. You're not, because that's your daughter's nap time. She's like, no, you're right. Like that's our, every day, that's her nap time. We stay consistent with them. Like, okay, that's where I'd be nailing your follow up. And then from there, you guys, like, I want you so I've got another, agent partner, coaching client of mine that has 2 young kids under the age of 2, and, doesn't have, can't do daycare yet, whatever. But like I told her, I'm like, okay, with her, she can't, like, it's like, you got kids around, there's no consistency with nap times yet. So like with her, I'm like, okay, if you can't do the calls, the next best thing then is personalized video text messages. So get up an hour earlier before your kids. I want you doing your personalized text videos, record those before they wake up, and then we can send those throughout the day. And that's popping and working for her. Now I'll go through the schedule that I put. Okay, because technically, Harvard did a research study years ago, and they did like, I don't know, it was like over 1 million, follow-up calls. And they had, real estate, insurance, car sales, like a mix of different, similar types of sales industries. And they found from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. to be, the best time for call answer rates. However, okay, us as real estate agents, let's just be realistic with this. Most of our clients are in the evenings. The longer the day goes on, the more the fires come up, the more meetings that we have. So I look at, okay, when can you be most consistent? So like if I've got an individual agent that wants to get to a point where they're popping, a deal a week, this is the schedule I put all of them on. Okay, 7 a.m. day, like you start your workday at 7 a.m. It doesn't need to be this, like you could move around the time windows, but here's the example of this. So 7 a.m. to 8 a.m., you're responding to any urgent messages. You're updating your CRM with any leads that came in the night before, and you're prepping for your daily call follow-up time. Then 8 to 10, I want you doing either your prospecting or your lead follow-up time, 8 to 10, pounding the phones, 50 reach outs, 5 connects, 5 conversations at a minimum. Then 10 to 10:30, sphere of influence, past client follow-up. Then 10:30 to noon is all your essential non-money making. So that's your admin work in your business, right? Your paperwork, client updates, ordering inspections, and so forth. And then noon on is pounding the pavement. So by that, I mean, that's either your buyer appointments, your buyer consultations, listing presentations, property showings. And if you don't have any of those going on, dude, it's more lead gen, more lead follow-up, working on systems, processes, skill set. So I mean, the best, like if there were 2 best time slots, Monday through Friday, that 8 to 10 window and 4 to 6 window. But I know for most, you have more willpower in the morning. The thing that we all hate most is the calls. Plus the longer the day goes out, the more the probability of you being inconsistent, things coming up, getting distracted, client time. So yeah, I like that 8 to 10 a.m. window.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. Um, and and I think like you said, it's really critical to look at what works for you because I think a lot of people are looking for like the perfect solution that works for everybody every time in every situation, but everybody has a different lifestyle. Everybody has different stuff going on. Um, and that's where sometimes I'll see like a lot of agents are looking for any excuse as to why they can't execute. So they're like, well, that works for this person. They're closing a deal a week, but because of my daughter, because of my son, that won't work for me. So I don't know when to do it, so I can't do it. Right. And so they're always looking for that kind of, escape to just figure out what works for them and double down. What are some of the biggest mistakes that you see people making when it comes to lead conversion? Like if somebody starts to leverage a CRM, they're dripping on people. Like, is there anything that you see commonly gets in the way of somebody actually doing something, but then not converting?
Yeah, yeah. Like a lot of times I'll go and jump into a CRM and just add the templated drip campaigns that the CRM has in place. And look, I love CRMs. I love technology. So I'm not using this as a dig, but it's like, okay, most of these CRM providers, like they're great tech people, but they're
Yeah.
not great in real estate. Yeah, right. They don't know your market. They don't know your lead source. They don't know what's going on in the mind of your clientele. They don't know an actual email that's of value. So the first thing is like I go through and like when I talk about my thousands of email text strips, like all those are personally written by me. Now, today with ChatGPT, it's that, but like sending things of value, right?
Mhm.
And I always, I look at this, okay, even if their sister's a realtor, they're going to use their sister, right? The things that I'm sending them are still of value that can benefit them, even if they don't choose me as their real estate agent. Now, hopefully, I get them as their the real estate agent, but sending things of value. But then from there, yeah, you got to make sure that you got to also make sure you got the right skill sets in place. I mean, this is a strategy, skill set, system, process game. That's essential. Right? So you got to make sure you have the right strategy, and strategy is your overall effective plan. So lead inception, through what your follow-up, making sure you got the right best proven follow-up protocol to maximize conversions. Then you got to make sure that you have the right skill set based on that, to go out there and convert those people. Like I talked earlier, like we got to, know pre-framing, tonality. We got to know how to kind of diffuse, keep them out of fight or flight mode. Um, then, and honestly, the biggest issue that I see people with is just the consistency.
Mhm.
Because like in the beginning, dude, I didn't have any of these skills. So my follow up essentially, like every time I call them, hey, just wanted to check in, see how you're doing, and see if there's any real estate needs I can serve, support, and help with. Like, dude, that's going to work a hell of a lot better than nothing.
Yeah.
Now, is that going to take you from, like being at, the top, 1% of that lead conversion source, in the industry? No. But is it going to get you a hell of a lot more results and not following up? Hell yes. You know, then from there, I'd say that like understanding everything matters, dude. Right.
Mhm.
So meaning, okay, like you got to make sure you're tracking your data so we can see, because like, okay, like we talked about just the setting appointment. Then okay, when we set the appointment, like we need to make sure industry average is a 50% appointment set to show rate. Like we need to make sure you're at 75% or greater. Right. And it's just four quick, easy things. It's like, okay, like you got to make sure they feel comfortable. Like if you're not getting a 75%, it's okay. They're not feeling comfortable. So they're doing this is a flight response, setting the appointment, knowing that they can no show you. So like when I set an appointment, like I'll tell a buyer when I set an appointment, hey, just so you know, the sole purpose of this appointment is to provide you with all the information that you need to make the best informed decision for yourself and for your family. And look, at the end of this meeting, you may decide that, hey, homeownership's not for you, not now, not never, and that's your decision. That's okay. You might decide that, hey, homeownership is for you, but now isn't the time. That's okay too. Hey, look, you might even decide that homeownership is for you. Now is the time, but you don't feel comfortable with using me as your realtor. That's okay too. Like I said, the sole purpose of this meeting is to make sure you have all the information that you need to make your best informed decision. And just so you know, I've got a very strict absolute pressure policy in my business. So you'll never be pushed, never be pressured. I'm just here to, again, provide you the information that you need to make your best decisions. Does that sound fair? So we got to make them feel comfortable. Then from there, you want to set the appointment. You don't want to set the appointment too far out, like either same day, 24 hours, 48 hours, worst case. If it gets beyond that appointment, no shows, start to skyrocket. Then from there, you got to confirm the appointment properly. Right. So you got to make sure you're, confirming it properly. And then we got to sell the value of the appointment. Like, why the hell should they meet with you? Like, why you need to meet with them, but why should they take time out of their busy day, out of their busy life, even if they're not looking to buy in for 6 to 12 months? Like with our YouTube leads, dude, like even if they're a year out and they're reload lead, like we're setting a buyer consultation immediately right day one, but we sell the value as to why they should meet with us, even though they're a year out. Same thing with the seller. Then from there, man, mastering your buyer presentation, mastering your listing presentation, because we want to make sure that you're converting at a minimum 85% of appointment conduction to client taken rate. And I'll tell you, so like one of our agent partners, so for the last couple years before this year, she was, one like a kind of average agent, popping a deal every other month or whatever. Then all of a sudden she did like 20 deals in the first quarter of this year. What's going on, dude? Like she's just crushing it. Obviously, she committed, obviously, but I wanted to know, like what from a tactical standpoint, like what did you change? What did you do? She goes, well, for years you guys have been saying to master the buyer consultation. So she goes, I decided to finally do that. And now in her mind, it was, okay, I led to the 20 deals because of the buyer consultation. Yeah, right. But I don't know this for a fact, but my theory is, okay, because she mastered that, now her confidence level went way up. So yeah, she's converting more at those. But when you've mastered that and you know how you're going to articulate your value at the appointment, you know the value that you bring, it has that much more confidence when you're doing all of those follow-up calls to be able to set that appointment. So all of this stuff makes a difference. All of this stuff matters. So I find so many people focus so much time on lead gen, lead follow-up, but then they don't know how to confirm or get a high show rate for those appointments. Or they go on the appointments and they're converting at 50%. Sometimes I'll talk with agents that are converting at like 30 or 40%. Where again, if you're going from 50% to 85%, just that one little tweak and change might put 40 grand net on an annual basis in your pocket or more, depending on how your business flow.
Yeah, man, it's absolutely incredible, and I'd love to kind of talk about how you help people because obviously today I think we broke down a complete masterclass of how to actually start following up effectively in order to make very simple, subtle tweaks that are going to going back to that concept of small hinges swing big doors. Like these are very simple things that people could do immediately to see massive changes in tangible results and outcomes. Um, but you've helped people with specific strategies for FISBOs, for expireds, for circle prospecting, Facebook leads, Google leads, open house leads. Like there's different strategies for all of this. And I personally know people that have worked with you and just tapped into the open house strategy and went from no deals to 6 clients in the next couple of weeks, which is absolutely incredible. So let's talk about the fact that obviously we've seen the stat: 70% of agents not only didn't close a deal in 2024, but haven't closed a deal in the last 18 months. We're halfway through 2025 and they still haven't done anything. And to me, that's a conscious decision because, you've been able to transform the lives of many agents by working directly with them. And now it's entirely free, where people like me can help with the lead generation on the modern side. You help with the lead generation on the traditional side, and then we can actually help them convert that into consistent closing. So let's kind of talk about the opportunity that people now have to be able to, reach out, chat with you, and be able to get this incredible mentorship for free to skyrocket their business going forward. What does that look like when, people have that conversation with you to chat about partnering?
Yeah, yeah. So look, I would say that okay, anybody that chooses to partner with, oh, say us, right? Because you and I are partners, together. So obviously they get access to all your amazing coaching, mentorship, support, and you're the best hands down in the world that I've ever. And that's why I partner with you because I'm like, dude, this guy is the best that I've ever seen in the world at YouTube, social media, AI, like you name it. When it comes from that, like I'm pretty good with those things, but there's different levels to this. You're light years ahead of me, but like to your point, okay, I'm really good at systems, processes, traditional style business scaling. If anybody's at 1 deal a month, they want it to be doing 3 deals a month. Like I know how to get them there and get them there fast, and then helping people build teams and continue to grow and scale. And obviously they have, I mean, between your, coaching university, my coaching university, where mine, it's like I walk them through everything A to Z from goal setting, business planning, tracking system, CRM setup, 60 hours plus of lead gen, lead follow up, buyer consultation. I mean, all the things that we talk, like, and I just give you everybody everything. Like, hey, here's everything in my business. I walk you through exactly what to do, why to do it, step by step, how to do it, give you everything in my business editable format. So you can, R&D. But I think the reason, and I'm very confident in this saying, is that we're able to help agents scale so fast is not because of the training, but it's because I spend a lot of time with them up front. Like anybody that
Mhm.
partners with me, immediately as soon as they're able to, I want to jump on a one-on-one call with them, coaching call. Cause like, look, and it's such a busy, noisy world out there today. You go, and if you're looking to partner with Mike or I or not, like this is just really important for everybody to understand is that, look, you go on YouTube, you go on podcasts, you go and everybody's like, oh, this is the best, this is the best, this is the best. Well, maybe that's the best for them, but maybe it's not the best for you, right? It's so nuanced. There is no best. Everybody's got different situations. Everybody's got different schedules. Everybody's got, some people are, maybe part-time and looking to transition full-time. Well, that might be something totally different than somebody that's, full-time. Everybody's, somebody might be introverted. Some people might be extroverted. I know some people that are deathly afraid, like paralyzing afraid of getting on video. Okay, well, maybe video then isn't like, well, we can try to get them over that hurdle, but maybe that isn't for them. Then from there, okay, timelines are different. Like, I get it a lot where people are like, oh, dude, I want to grow my business through YouTube, Instagram. I'm like, great. Those are amazing sources. Like YouTube's probably the best, highest converting lead source I've ever seen for new client acquisition in my career. But then I'll ask them, hey, how quickly can you go without a paycheck before you're in trouble? And they'll tell me
Mhm.
something like 4 months. I say, okay, here, the conundrum is this. You do everything right. Don't make one mistake, which is difficult enough as it is because it's a science, right? But we'll walk you through how to do everything right so you don't make those mistakes. But it's going to be on average, depending on your market, but on average about a year before you start seeing good, consistent business from those. So you're going to run out of money. You're going to be in a world of hurt before you start seeing the fruits of those labors. So let's make sure then that we stack in an immediate lead source where you can start getting paychecks within the next 90 days before you're in trouble. and stack these strategies. So I spend a lot of time with them up front. So making sure that they know the best strategy for them based on their unique situation. We can come up with that schedule and then also can really help rein in that focus. Because what I find so many people nowadays, it's like, they spend 4 months just binging all this training, all this content. Even though it's all great, amazing training, like, dude, you can get trained to death, and that's not you being productive. Like, we got to rein in that focus so you know exactly what to execute on. Like I always tell people, like if you want to create success, you got to know what you got to do to win every single day. So exactly when you show up at the office, it's not I'm going to work hard today. What do I do? It's okay. Here's what I got to do. Here's what my schedule is. You know exactly, what activities you need to do, how much of them you need to do, how many leads you must generate, reach outs, combos, like what you need to do to win every single day. And that's why I believe that, we're able to get people producing so heavily is not only do we have all the coaching training information, but we're able to come up with those customized strategy plans to ensure that they're getting from where they're at to where they want to go in the, quickest, most effective, efficient, profitable manner.
Completely agree, man. And just I pulled up an email that I received this morning because it just, goes to show how different we really are, and the fact that, we continue to over deliver on the experience that we promise for those that are listening and, want that extra support. I got an email from a guy this morning, and, he joined somebody else at EXP, and he said, "Hey, Mike, I joined a team that was supposed to help me build up my strategy, but it's not what I'm expected. I'm getting no help, no support, and I feel like I'm alone. I don't know what to do. Can I join your group?" I've just talked to a few people from your group, and they continue to say the constant feedback is that you over deliver on the experience that you promise, and that your group is what changed their business and their life forever. That was verbatim the email that I just
Yeah.
received. And we get that all the time because, people are wondering, do we actually do what we say? But the continuous feedback is that we actually go far above and beyond what we share here on YouTube or any social platform because I think it goes to show that you and I deeply care. We have a vested interest in helping people transform their business, transform their lives. And that's the exciting part about this is that we become partners. We're in this together. We have a vested interest in helping people win. And this is an opportunity for people to get back on track and still be on track to hit their goals. Because I think a lot of people fail in the industry, not because they're not capable, but they don't have the right support, mentorship, guidance, and accountability in order to execute on it. And that's exactly what we provide. So, dude, thanks again for revealing an absolute playbook and a blueprint. And guys, click that link in the description of the pinned comment to have a conversation, right? Any successful person that I've ever met says the most expensive thing you can own is a closed mind. This opportunity might be or might not be for you, but the worst thing that you could do is have a closed mind and miss something that could be the pivotal catalyst that changes your business forever. So, Josh, thanks so much again, dude.
Yeah, it was an honor, my friend. Truly appreciate it.
Awesome, guys. Book that call. If you got value from this, like, comment, subscribe. If you have any questions, drop them below. We'll be in there. And it's time to transform your business by not just generating more leads, but effectively converting them.